Welcome everyone back to Bullish Project episode 20, I believe it is. I never know the numbers and someday I'll get that down, but we are back for another episode, which is crazy. We're 20 episodes in, and today we have a guest on the podcast, which is my homeboy Dave. He's been on the podcast before. He runs his own podcast at Just Last Week on Spotify, so you should definitely check that out. Dave, what's happening, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Feels like forever since we last talked.
I know. We're getting some work in today. We just recorded an episode for his podcast, and now we're doing one for mine. Different topics, totally different episodes, different podcasts as well. So you should check both out. But his will be released before this one. So if you haven't listened to his yet, then you should do that first before you do this one, or listen to this one first. It doesn't really matter. But you should definitely check them both out and follow both of them if you haven't already. But yeah, it has been a long time since we talked. In fact, it might have been like 20 minutes, I
I
think.
was hoping you'd get that. I was like, maybe he's gonna think I'm doing the thing I said on mine, where it was like it's been 2 months. But yeah, I'm glad you got the joke. I was like, shit, that might not play as well as I thought in my
Yeah.
brain.
No, I knew
I
exactly
also
what you were
do
talking
the
about.
I do the same thing with the episodes. Like, there's sometimes I'll open up to record, and I have to like sprint to Spotify to be like, what was the last number? I don't even remember.
Yeah, I
You know how
just
that
struggle
goes.
with it in general. I have no idea. I do episodes in advance sometimes, and then I do
Right.
episodes the same day, so it's just weird. I'm pretty sure this is 20. If not, I'll figure it out eventually. But yeah, today got a few different topics in the mix. Hoping that we can get I don't know, I guess about an hour out of this. Our conversations flow. Last time we did one, it was pretty dope. So I'm pretty excited. But today I actually want to talk about a few different things, a few of the struggles I've had lately. So a few days ago, I actually had my first panic attack, I guess it was, or my first anxiety attack, something like that. I can't confirm or deny. I have no idea if it even was that, but from what I've read, it seems like that. And it was really weird going through that because it's never happened to me before. So on top of that, I was freaking myself out more, and then it became hard to breathe because I was, I guess, hyperventilating is the word. I don't know, but it's been crazy. And for I don't know, it's like the morning after, I was still feeling a little bit of the anxiety from that, and it's been tough to get back to like quote normal per se after like once something like that happens. It's, I guess, traumatizing in a way. So I don't know, I was just, it was just so weird. I don't even know what triggered it. I felt fine, and then just all of a sudden I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was insane, but it was the first time it ever happened to me, so I was a little confused. And overcoming that for me is a little bit easier, I would say. I've had a little bit um, more advantages lately with the way my mindset is, but when you're in that realm, it's tough to break out of. It was just scary, you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure, dude. I've had plenty over the past like year. And if you don't mind me asking, like what happened? Were you just chilling at home or were you out in public or
I was actually at home. Yeah, I was chilling at home. I had recently played Fall Guys, which was fun. I was playing with some friends. And then I got off, and then I was like, I don't know,
just boom out of nowhere?
30 minutes later, I was laying down, and then it was like, yeah, I can't breathe. This is, was weird. I don't know. I know there's a lot of things that I do lately, which causes me to stay busy. So I don't know if that's like some subconscious stress or whatever, and my like body or mind couldn't handle it anymore, and it just kind of like broke down. But yeah, it was the weirdest thing that I've experienced so far mentally.
Now, did you have like when I had my first panic attack that I still it's definitely traumatizing. You're 1000% correct. To this day, like definitely I know how to manage it better now. But even now, even knowing how to manage it and deal with it, I still get anxiety about getting a panic attack. Like there's sometimes I'll feel like I have to remind myself like nothing's like I'm just traumatized thinking that it's gonna happen again. And they say that that's like a big symptom after you have a panic attack is like that constant mind state of like, is this gonna happen again? Did you have like a really rapid heartbeat?
Um, I mean, so I can feel my heartbeat because I guess my mind concentrates on it more. If I'm like working out or whatever, I can feel it kind of beat in my chest a little bit more. But in that scenario, I'm not even sure. I just remember literally trying to breathe and then not being able to get enough air to be able to breathe. That was the main thing, like
Yeah,
trying to
for
breathe.
sure.
And then I had to like pace around for a little bit to
Oh
like
yeah, I've
I
been
don't
there.
know what like I guess get my mind off of it or uh I, I don't know like
Yeah, when I get panic attacks, I rub my thighs. Like I just sit. It almost looks like I'm on crack. Like I'll just sit there and rub my legs back and forth. It looks like I'm like tweaking, but for me, it's just me there's a few, like, tips and tricks that I've learned over the time. There's a thing where you should tense up and relax 3 different parts of your body, so whether that's, like, tensing up your hands and your toes and your shoulders, and then slowly release it, just to remind yourself that, like, your body's still there. And then another thing, with the breathing, when you lay down, put, like, your hands on your stomach, and then try to focus on your hands moving up and down as you breathe, like, slowly. So, not like, 'cause, even though it feels like it's hard to breathe, when you like see your hands moving up and down, it like tricks your body into remembering like we are getting air, we are breathing. I can see my lungs are working in real time. When I had my first panic attack, dude, my heart rate was jacked. It was like 160 or something, and I was like freaking out. Like I still remember I had to like call my mom as like a 24-year-old adult to like come up to my job because I was like I was literally minutes away from calling an ambulance because I thought I was gonna die. Like my panic attack was probably like my panic attack was like it was like a boss level to start. I was super under geared. I did not have enough XP. My skill tree was not developed, and I just got thrown into, you know, I don't even know her name. I was gonna make a Elden Ring joke, but I forgot the name of the boss. But yeah, dude, panic attacks suck. And after this, I can send you some breathing methods that really help. It's like breathing exercises, and when you do these, bro, when you get done, it's like a euphoric feeling. Like you feel like your whole body just feels like rejuvenated. And I did these for like a month, and I actually got these sent to me by my friend who had like he had panic attacks so bad that he would like pass out, like just black out. And he told me after doing these breathing
jeez.
methods, yeah, he told me after doing these breathing methods for a while that he ended up being able to cope with it better and whatnot. So I definitely feel it, bro. They can definitely be scary. And you're right, dude. Sometimes you might not even know what triggers it or what causes it. That's the thing that kind of keeps you up at night. It makes you think about them. It's like, is this gonna happen again? The one thing I can say is that if you think you're gonna have a panic attack, you probably won't. It's weird. It's like a reverse psychology. Um, but yeah, man, panic attacks suck. They are terrible. Hopefully yours was only like 30 minutes. Mine was like 2 hours. Like it was I ended up having to like sit in my room with the lights off and just like pure silence to like I don't know, the opposite of sensory overload. Like I needed nothing. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to hear anything. I just kind of sat there. So I feel you, bro. It really does suck to get a
Yeah,
panic attack.
mine didn't last that long, luckily, but it was definitely long enough for me to know that something was happening. So, and it's weird because, like you said, I don't really know what triggered it, so that's why I was a little more concerned. Um, and my coworker was like, "Yeah, it's a sign of stress for sure," and I'm like, "I don't even know how." Like, mentally, I'm just like, I don't have much stress at all. So, or at least I don't think I do. So maybe there's some sort of subconscious thing going on, but I haven't had one since, and I've been fine ever since. So maybe it was a one-off deal, but who knows? I mean, we'll find out. I do like this podcast, for example. A lot of the things I talk about are things that I do day to day already in terms of my routine or my habits. And some of them I still struggle with. So some of them are like halfway, excuse me, halfway there. And some of them are already there. And I feel like talking about the full scope of it is nice because it opens me up to be more genuine. So that's why I like doing the podcast. But yeah, it is scary for sure. Because like I said, I think the scarier part is just not even knowing why it happened. And I'm fine now, so um, I'm not too worried about it anymore. But yeah, that definitely pretty scary.
Yeah, it could definitely be subconscious. Uh little bit of a what is this? Maybe a revealing story here, but when like after COVID, one of my best friends, who unfortunately is not a friend of mine anymore, kind of sad, but one of my best friends had moved and he was like the person I hung out with like every day. So after like COVID, I like didn't really like I was working a job I hated. I didn't go out in like anymore. I just sat at home. This was before like I really got into comics again. So I was really like doing nothing, just like coming home and drinking every day. And it got to be like a problem. I had like not like a serious problem, just like I had people telling me like, "Yo, you should probably." It's not like I was drinking like bottles of liquor every night, but probably too many beers too many times of the week, one of those situations, and also just not doing anything else either. Like that's what I would do every day. I would come home, play games, and drink beer. Not a great way to live your life. So I started doing mushrooms, and I had like a few mushroom trips. And when I came out of those, bro, that's when I started having panic attacks. And what I did in my case was, from what I learned, was probably that like on some of these trips I had, I would think about like really not like bad thoughts, but like I would think about like damage I'd done to my body over time because like I used to smoke and vape and all kinds of stuff, bro. Stuff that's not good for you growing up. And I don't have like a very good diet. And one of these things I did on my mushroom trip where I was just like reading a bunch of like Reddit posts and like WebMD articles. So for like 6 hours while I'm like on these mushrooms, I'm just reading a bunch of bad information. Maybe not bad information, but not something you want to do on one of these journeys. And when I came out of it, a lot of the things I read was like when I did that, it like opened my brain to things I like never thought about before. And the same thing with me. The first time I had a panic attack, I was driving my car and I had to like pull over for some reason. I just got like this sense of impending doom and I started like breathing real fast and I had to pull over and I got over it and I thought it was like a one-off thing and then I had my other one that was like really bad. But yeah, from what I've read, like sometimes you can it could just be in passing. Like you could have heard something from somebody else, and that could have like opened a part of your brain up to like think about things that it's never thought about, and just kind of sit below the surface. So you never know, bro. If it does like happen again, I'll send you this video when we're done. For like a breathing method, it should like clear it up. And then if you practice that breathing method like at least 2-3 times a week, you should be able to just breathe your way out of a panic attack. Like I still get them sometimes. Like I can feel my adrenaline go up and start freaking out and I can kind of overcome it within like 10 minutes. So it is manageable, but I feel you, bro. It sucks. I've almost thought myself that I have like some sort of anxiety disorder. Ever since like I had mine, because ever since then, like I remember when I was at work, I've always been fine with like people yelling at me, and I deal with like crackheads and shit. And this one time, some dude just got mad over me about like a dollar and change, and I had to like walk away because I couldn't handle it. Like I was about to pass out. So it can definitely like snowball, but yeah, I think you should be fine. You work out, you go to the gym and stuff, and that's like a big part of it is like having different outlets to relieve stress. So hopefully it's a one-off thing for you.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and the activity levels play into it as well. And going into the second topic I want to talk about is like the science behind positivity, and these kind of both go hand in hand because when I was researching it, the activity levels will reduce your anxiety, especially if you're in good physical shape, and I'm in very moderate physical shape. So I got like this light at the end of the tunnel mindset where if I keep working at it and I keep working out, and like my biggest thing right now is eating healthier, and I do very well with that for the most part. So that's kind of been my thing, is like researching the science behind it and knowing that physical activity helps the most in terms of being happier or more positive or less anxious. So I've been just trying to like move around and stay more active because for a while, especially up until this point, I've been pretty sedentary. My job, 40 hours a week, is not active at all. And when I get off of work, I'm mentally exhausted, which makes me want to sit down and not do anything. So I've been trying to
Feel it.
overcome that.
Yeah, for sure.
And really it's just like the research shows that like most people who are living a more active life are, mentally healthier. So that's what I've been trying to stick to because I've researched it and it seems to point in that direction. and it's really repetition as well. Like if you're doing physical activity, that does help, but with mental struggles as well, like what you were just talking about with the breathing techniques and stuff, it really is all about the repetition of doing it mentally and physically to be able to train your mind and your body to be fit in some sort of way. But that goes for mental as well, not just physical.
Yeah, for sure. And there's like science behind like the breathing thing that I forget what it's called, but it's like something in your body, like it's like hitting the reset button on like a tablet. Like it puts all the software back where it needs to be, even though you might not think it. And even like you said too with the eating healthy. I remember I was listening to Joe Rogan like a long time ago because I eat terrible. I have the palate and the diet of like a 5-year-old dude. I eat like no vegetables. Trying to work on that. Um, but I eat terrible, and for a long time, I was depressed, and, then I found out that, like, the food you eat and, like, the bacteria, like, in your gut and your digestive tract can affect, like, your mental health, your mood, like, what you crave, and things like that. So, especially, like, I remember I was listening to a podcast. It's called PKA, but one of the guys on there was talking about like a lot of our people our age are depressed, and I think I said this before on one of our episodes, but it's like a lot of people eat like shit. They don't do anything. They don't sleep. They either smoke, weed or drink too much, and then they're like, "Man, I feel terrible every day, and I don't know why." It's like, well, there's a lot of reasons why. Like you don't
Yeah.
relationships with people, you don't work out, you don't do anything, you don't eat right. So, why would you feel great? So, it definitely is something I'm also working on that myself. Uh I said this on my show like this week's episode technically, but I'm like the heaviest I've ever been and I've been having to buy like bigger clothes. And I was like, dude, this sucks. I'm just going to lose weight instead of like keep buying bigger clothes. So yeah, I feel that. I'm counting calories, starting exercising, and trying to eat healthier myself. So I feel it, bro. And I feel like it's one of those things where it's like it's definitely like a hurdle. Like you don't see instant results or instant improvement, so that like shies a lot of people off. So it definitely takes a while to get like all that stuff back in order and get it working correctly.
Yeah, and I've actually talked about this on last week's episode with my friend Ethan, and the week prior to that a little bit as well, and in sort of different ways about just training your mind and training your body to do certain things and the repetitions behind it. I'm coming from a lifestyle of waking up and eating sugary foods and super fried fatty foods, and then on top of that not having any or little exercise at all. um so it's like, how do you go from that to eating watermelon, broccoli, smoothies, and then you and salads, and then you work out 3 4 times a week. So it's definitely a work in progress, especially if you're older. um or I guess as you get older it becomes harder because habit forming tends to start when you're younger, and those habits carry through, and you can always get new habits and subtract bad ones, like what I talked about, and on the episode prior to the one prior to this one, so 2 episodes ago. Um, it does take a lot of work because you have to actually mentally work on it. Some habits can form without you even knowing it, and subconscious habits will like traditions, or every Sunday we always go to this place, and then you like it so much that you go more often. Like if it's a restaurant and you eat unhealthy, you might want to do that more often if you like it enough. So you might form habits in like a subconscious way that way as
Yeah,
well. So it's tough because like being aware of it is like the first thing for me. And trying to remain calm and know that like I'm not even old enough yet to really see the peak of my life, or see like peak health problems yet. So I definitely have time to turn it around. And what I do the best right now is eating healthier than I ever been. So I've been clinging to that. But yeah, it's definitely tough because when you add all of those different things into the mix, it starts to it becomes a really big balancing act. And going off of what you said, you could be depressed like clinically, or like
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
diagnosed with it, and that's hard enough. But if you're depressed, whether you've been diagnosed or not, and you're also doing the things that you were just talking about where you're smoking, you're drinking, you're eating unhealthy, you're not getting any exercise, you're not drinking enough water. You're really not giving yourself a chance either, you know? It's like you could be depressed, but it's going to be less likely for you to be depressed if you're drinking enough water and you're actually working out and doing the things you got to do. And part of that is not wanting to move or not wanting to eat healthy because you want to have comfort foods and stuff. So it is a big balancing act and a big hurdle to jump over sometimes, because if you get into that vicious cycle of depression and on top of that you have an exponential increase in doing things that cause more depression, it's tough to get out of for sure.
Yeah, man, it's just it's like you said, it's a spiral for sure. Um, but yeah, man, that's something I struggle with too. Is I have like a lot of old habits that like you said, I think started off young that are like super hard for me to break, and I definitely struggle with that for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, it gets harder to create new ones and break away from the old ones as you get older. So being in that um I guess routine is tough, especially when you don't want to be or when you know you shouldn't be. Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me because like even gym is hard for me. I talk about it a lot and I go sometimes, but it's definitely not consistent. And I know that about myself. So when I talk about that kind of motivation on my podcast, I know that it's not something I'm super good at yet. So I can't fully talk about it per se as an expert, but I do know what it takes to be motivated in terms of doing the small things. And I broke away from the old habits that I had where I was drinking pop every day and it was like up to a 12 pack a day on like gaming binging sessions. And then you get like all the super unhealthy foods on top of it. Like when I was younger, we'd have cheaper foods around the house. So it would be microwavable pizzas, it would be ramen noodles, it would be like frozen chicken patties. And, you know, that's all that was around just because it's cheaper, you know? So it's easier to grab that stuff when you don't
Mm,
have to
for
worry
sure.
about spending more for it. So yeah, breaking out of those stuff is tough. I don't drink pop anymore, luckily. I barely do any carbonated beverages at all, so I don't have that problem. I've broken away from that, which is nice. But knowing that I still have a long way to go is nice too, because when you're in the middle, you can kind of look back and see how far you came, but then when you turn around and look forward, you can see where you're headed, and you know you still got work to do, but know where you came from. So it's a nice balance.
Yeah, for sure, man. The best thing I've heard about going to the gym and like making that like a habit. Somebody who like I know personally lost like a bunch of weight had told me, uh, if you like, I assume you have a good work ethic. Like you go into work, you don't really call out a lot, blah blah blah. But like I've always been that way. Like if I'm hired somewhere, like not only because you have to have money to survive, but when I like take on a job or I take on a responsibility, like I show up on time, I'm not late. I usually don't call out, even if like unless I'm like really sick or I have like health issues. I really don't call out a lot. I don't leave early. I'm a big like, come in, stay, finish, then you go home. And if you have that work ethic at work or even like on your podcast or even if you, I don't know, if you paint, if you build model cars, whatever you do, you should do that to the best of your ability as much as you can and show up every day. And that's what I've heard at the gym is like you got to show up to the gym like you're showing up to work, but you're showing up to like work for yourself. Like the payoff is, feeling better, looking better, getting stronger, whatever it is, whatever the self improvement you're trying to chase, you gotta like go to the gym and you gotta show up, 5 days a week, whatever the case is, and you gotta do your job. But this time it's for yourself, so it's different. But that's the best way I've heard, and that's like how I kind of look at working out and going to the gym is like kind of whatever work ethic you have, if you have like a really good one, just like kind of apply that to yourself instead of thinking of it as like, because I'm the same way, bro. I'm like, fuck, I gotta go work out. I gotta hit the bike. I gotta go take a walk. I gotta do some push ups or something. But instead, it's like, all right, I'm gonna do this. And when I'm finished, then I can relax. I can recover or whatever. Um, and then also, I feel you, bro. I've never really been like a big soda drinker. One thing I've kicked in the past year was like energy drinks, bro. And even like bangs and stuff that have like no calories or whatever, they're still probably not good for you. There's like 300 milligrams of caffeine and a bunch of chemicals and whatnot. Even if they say they help you out, they're lying. So I used to drink like, dude, I'd probably drink 2 of those a day back when I was working at this pawn shop. Like, I drink 1 in the morning and then 1 after lunch. So it's like 600 milligrams of caffeine a day. And now the only thing I really ever drink that's either carbonated or caffeine is my Coke with coffee because that's my jam. That's like my favorite drink in the world. But other than that, I've always been like a big water, coffee, tea, whatever. But yeah, I feel you, bro. I bought a Snapple the other day because I had this coupon from work and it was free. Dude, a Snapple is like 50 grams of sugar. And I was like,
Yeah,
man,
it's ridiculous.
I was like, this says like made with real juice. I'm like, it's a real lie. Like, hell no, bro. I threw that thing away. I took like 4 or 5 drinks and I looked at the label because I'm trying to be healthy. And I was like, dude, this is like, that's like 2 times as much as like a daily recommended. I think like, as a full grown man or whatever, it's like 36 grams of sugar is recommended. I was like, this is like double that. I'm like, what the fuck? I thought Snapple was kind of healthy. I was like, they're lying to us, bro. So I feel you, man.
Yeah.
It's tough to break out of that stuff. Um, but yeah, it's like you said, slowly but surely. And I like what you said about like being in the middle. I've always said that even about like I think I remember saying that about like making the podcast when I first started is like being out in the middle of an episode and not knowing what you're doing. But um like I started making Gundams recently. I don't know if you know what Gundams are, but they're like or not Chinese. They're Japanese robots and they're like plastic model kits. You put them together. They're like kind of like Transformers, but they don't go into a car.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, I've heard of them now that you talk
yeah,
about it.
so I've been building those, and every time I make one, even though it only takes like an hour or two, and you just like snap all these pieces together, I'm like, dude, I followed all these instructions. I put all the stickers in the right places. I did all like this is dope, and it's like I think a lot of people don't have that these days. It's like pride in your work. Like even if you work like me, I work at a gas station, right? When I mop the floor, not like mopping the floor because I want to, but like when I get done, I'm like, man, this floor was dirty and I cleaned it. And when somebody comes in and they see that it was dirty last night and it's not dirty now, I'll be like, yeah, I did that. Like, you don't have to like want to be fucking a janitor or something. But if you do a task, you should do it to the best of your ability. So when you look back, you be like, I'm proud of that and I did it. I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people get caught up in the like, oh, I have to mop the floor. It's like, who cares? Just mop the floor, and then you'd be like, boom. Like I can't say making your bed because I never make my bed. I think making your bed is stupid. You're just gonna mess it up the next night. I get it's a discipline thing. That's the one thing I don't do, but it's that's what I'm talking about. It's like you should make your bed because you're like, oh, I made my bed. I started my day off doing something. I disagree. I don't make my bed, but I get the meaning behind it. But for sure, um, I did think when you brought up the science behind like being positive, something I want to talk about is I'm a big MMA guy. Um, the thing I always point to when people say like positive thinking is bullshit, or like what's that book called, The Secret? All these things about like you know what's that called? Like projection. Shit, I can't remember what it's called now. There's a term for it other than like positive thoughts. I can't remember it now because I wanted to talk about it. But basically, Conor McGregor is the love him or hate him, whatever he's become. When I started watching Conor McGregor on like undercards, and I would hear this Irish dude with this charisma talking about how he was gonna do this, he was gonna do that, he's gonna be bigger than anybody, and then I watched it unfold. It was like it was everything for me because I'm like, wow. Because I always thought that growing up too. I'm like, oh yeah, you know, if you're positive, positive things will happen. You're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It sounds like a lot of mystical, you know, gibberish. But then I watched Conor McGregor kind of do this in real life. Like he said he was gonna knock out Aldo in the first round. They used to call him Mystic Mac because before his fights, he would tell you what round and how he was gonna do it, and like almost every time he did it, it was exactly as he predicted. I think there was like one time it didn't happen in the early stages, but then he like knocked out Aldo, got the belt in like 13 seconds, and then he kept saying he was gonna be the first like two-weight champion because he did that in a different organization before the UFC, and then I watched him do it in the UFC, and then he said he was gonna fight Floyd Mayweather, made $100 million. So every time I think about that, it's just crazy to see really old clips of Conor McGregor being like 19 with a shaved head and a bunch of acne, like doesn't even look like how he looks now. And he's talking about all these things he was going to do in the UFC. And when you look at it, literally everything he said happened. So I definitely believe like man, I wish I could think of the term I'm trying to say, but I can't remember it. But yeah, that is definitely true. And I think that's real important, like not only setting like not every goal you have to have is like I'm going to be a UFC champion, but just setting goals that you can reach and then kind of speaking it into reality, like making it happen by um kind of putting yourself in that mindset day after day, and then eventually it'll become reality.
Yeah, and you have to buy into it too. That's super important because you could be watching positive stuff and doing that like I don't know however many times a day, but then if you're not buying into it, you're gonna think that's stupid. Like this is ridiculous. That this world sucks. I can't believe somebody's just gonna fake it like this world sucks. Why are they doing this? And that's true to an extent because if you are in that position where you want to be positive, but if you're looking at things that you're not buying into, it's not going to happen. You're going to continue to be negative or whatever. But if you actually buy into that positive mindset, then it changes everything. And part of it is the repetition of being surrounded by somebody who can actually give you their input on every single situation because once you get their input, you can kind of think about things the way they do and apply that to your life by starting to think about things in every single situation. And it takes time because you're not going to be a pro at it at first if you struggle with it. And not only that, you have to expose yourself to different situations to be able to apply it anyway. So the Conor McGregor thing is pretty cool to see because just watching him say it's going to happen and actually do it is and it's impressive for sure. And in that situation with him saying that he's going to do it and speaking it into existence, like that has to happen first because he bought into it. Like you can tell based on the way he was talking, he had the confidence and he had the charisma to be able to say he was going to do it and then also actually back it up with his skills. So it's a mixture because you have to be practical about it. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go to the gym today," and make it all sarcastic and stuff. You have to be practical, um, and you also have to be realistic in terms of what works for you and not everyone else. So it's a tough balance.
Yeah, for sure, man. But damn, you just said something, and now I keep having problems. I need to finish this cup of coffee. You just said something right before you said Conor McGregor, and I can't remember what you said, but it was like exactly what I was thinking.
Was it
Um,
practical
no, it was like
or
right as soon as you started talking,
okay?
and then I
Fair enough.
blanked out. But yeah, man, it's definitely like you said. You can't like I forget who said it, but having the idea is not enough. Like you can have a bunch of great ideas, but if you never do anything about it, they're literally worthless. You could literally have the greatest idea that's ever been thought of, but if you don't ever put it into action or you don't actually try to see if it works, then it's just nothing. It's worthless. So you're definitely right about that. I think there's a lot of people that like either watch like a lot of like self-improvement or motivational content and they get like real hyped up in their head and then they never do anything. And it's like I used to do that about like music or like even before I started my podcast, I would have that thought all the time and I never did anything. And it's like, well, this is worthless. Like I get all jazzed up and then I don't do anything. So you just end up like you become stagnant. Like you just keep sitting in that headspace of some of it might be afraid to fail. Some people might be afraid to actually like I'm probably uh guilty of this myself. Like w- when it comes to like traumas I have or like bad personality traits or whatever, the way I handle like stress or bad situations, I always tell people I have like a lot of baggage. I have a problem like letting things go. And there's a artist NF, he's a rapper. He talked about it in one song where he was like, because like a lot of his music is like very angry or sad, and in one of the songs he like addresses it from like like maybe not a fan's perspective, but he looks at it like if I let go, like if I've been angry and sad and had all this baggage my whole life, and then I let that go, like am I the same person? It feels like you lose who you are, even though you might be a better version. I feel like people get stuck in that it's kind of like a revolving door. Like you go in and then you can walk around and you're about to leave, but then you're like, "Oh, I'll go around one more time. I'm not ready to give this part of me up yet." So that's definitely a thing I think you were right about. Is like you have to actually not just listen to it, not just even buy into it, but you have to practice it. Like you don't get where you're going without the groundwork. Like you can't be at the top of the building if you didn't build the bottom.
Yeah, for sure. And that's part of it too, because being able to get there starts with the small things. You have to, like, somebody can lay you the foundation, and if you literally never do anything with it, it stays the foundation, and that's it.
Yep,
So
just a floor.
yeah, just a floor. And I recently had, like, a lot of these analogies and a lot of these motivational speakers that I watch have been clicking with me a lot more because I'm starting to understand it. And what's cool about it is the things that you may have listened to before, now, like, when you listen to them again, or you hear somebody say it a different way with a different analogy or whatever, and it clicks, it's so euphoric. It's like your mind is like open to a whole new realm of possibilities within your life or within whatever you're trying to do. And it's insane, because when it clicked for me was last year, maybe a couple of years ago, about a year and a half. And what's crazy is, like, when it clicks, you still have work to do, but when it clicks, it's easier to stay with that mindset or with that particular task, because you know that it, like, it just causes like a paradigm shift. Basically, like, the way you looked at things before is totally different now, because somebody said one little thing that ends up in your brain, and then your brain processes it a different way than it used to, even though that person may have said it 7 times before. It's almost like going back to the not necessarily the science, but like the idea that people will say, if they're struggling with, depression, or even addiction. This will be a good analogy, really. Like, people with addiction, you can only help them so much, and if and when they're ready to break out of that, they can do that. But it's only when they're ready to do it is when they can do it, because you can only help that person so much.
No, for sure. I actually had something written down along these lines. I do agree with that. You can't, what is it? You can't help somebody who's not willing to help themselves. Like you could
Yeah.
try, you could try, you could try, but if they don't want to do it, it's like you're just punching a brick wall here. You're only gonna break your hand. Um, but it's funny you said that. I literally said that in my episode on Friday morning. I was watching XQC and Greek God debate over like getting in shape and whatnot, and Greek God X used to be like really overweight, like super overweight, and now he's like getting in shape. But now he's like one of these people that's like, "Oh, you're not healthy. You're not healthy. You do this, you do that." Even though like for 20, maybe I don't know how old he is, like 25 years of his life, he was super overweight, didn't eat right. That doesn't matter. But now that he's on like this kick, he's like going to XQC, being like, "You're too skinny. You stream too much. You don't do this. You don't do that." And the XQC was arguing that like Greek God had done like all this damage to his body, and that even if XQC wasn't like really healthy, he still hasn't done as much damage, and like no matter what this other guy did to get better, he would never be like 100% overall if he never like got really fat and like ate poorly and blah 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 blah. And I was watching another guy react to this debate. Sorry, this is getting a little weird. But basically, when he paused the video, he was saying how that's like a bad argument. And this is something I've done my entire life. I've always compared myself to like what I could have been if I didn't do this, or if I went down this path, or if I didn't have this toxic trait, or if I didn't have this baggage. And what the quote was basically, you can't compare yourself to what you could have potentially been 100% overall if everything was perfect, because then you end up in this mindset of like, it not even that it's never good enough, like, you'll just always be unsatisfied that you aren't 100% overall. But then the way he broke it down that finally clicked in my brain was like, let's say something happened, like, while your mom was pregnant, or, like, you just have bad genetics, you're already not 100% even before you're born. Like, you could have deficiencies, or, you know, like how people have, like, what's the right word for this? I don't know, I'm just gonna say it, handicaps, like, they might, not, like, have an arm, or, people are born with weird, like, deformities and whatnot. So, that finally clicked for me, because he basically said, "If you continue to do that, you'll never do anything." And it's like you said, you could hear a bunch of stuff that you listened to in the past, and then a year later, it just completely hits different, and you finally understand it. And that's what I was saying is that somebody could give you a piece of advice 100 times, or what did I say? 100 different people could give you the same piece of advice in slightly different ways, and maybe one out of those 100 people would say it the right way to where it connects in your brain. So I definitely had a moment like that like a week ago where I was like, "Damn, I've probably heard this a bunch of different ways, but the way it was explained in this video like really connected with my brain." And like I said, it even helped like ease some of my anxiety I've been having. After I heard that, it like just made some stuff click in my brain where I'm like, "Damn, that truly is what I do," and it makes sense, like, why it's because like, I guess it's an admirable thought to be like, "I could be better," but you almost chase your tail with that because it's like, well, why not just try to be better rather than, like, hypothesize about what you could have been better at, you
Yeah.
know?
No, that makes sense for sure. And that kind of goes into my next point because I wanted to talk about this and elaborate on it a little bit as well. But with everything we talked about during this episode, it kind of has a similar theme. But when you think about it as a whole, you never really know somebody's full story unless you're yourself. You like you could be close to somebody, but you may not know like they could be hiding at least one part of themselves from you. And you're not with anybody 24/7 unless it's you, because you're in your own body 24/7. So part of like the next topic I want to talk about is since you never really know the full story, you need to give that person the benefit of the doubt in most situations. Some of them are not excusable, but for most situations, like I was just talking about this with a friend, and not to get controversial or anything, but I think it was Logan Paul who posted like that video from the suicide forest or whatever in Japan. I think it was something like that,
Classic, bro, coming back with the
and
history.
yeah, and my response to it was I was like, because I believe he took down the video if I'm not mistaken, and I
Yeah, it
believe
was up for,
he
like, 2 hours, I think.
yeah, and I believe he did like a public apology or something. Nonetheless, like I didn't see the video and I didn't see any of the copies of the video that
It
were
was
circulating after that, but I
it
did
was
hear
pretty
the
poor
story.
taste. Yeah, it was poor
Yeah,
taste.
poor
They were, like
taste would be a
they were, like,
good.
making jokes and, like I think in one point you can like, I don't think you can see a body, but you can see, like, a figure, like, it was bad, like, it was in frame, it was bad, like,
Yeah,
yeah, I remember
Definitely
that's
poor taste from what I read and researched. And my reaction to it was, because obviously he was uneducated at the time and he was trying to do something for likes and views, but he didn't see any harm in it until after he got the perspective of somebody else who the vast majority of people would agree that it was definitely in poor taste. But my reaction to it was like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he didn't do it with ill intent, and since I don't know the full story, I'm just not going to worry about it. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And part of this like cancel culture that we have nowadays is nobody is really giving anybody the chance to explain themselves. They just see something that they've done which is bad in their eyes, and then they want to completely cut them out of their life and never watch them, never buy at that store again, never hang out with this person again. And I never really understood that because everybody makes mistakes, and at the end of the day, everybody's focused on their own self growth and their own issues, their own problems. Why are you even remotely worried about somebody else's problems enough to want to cancel them after a mistake? Which, like I said, some of them are not excusable. It really just depends, what it is. But for the most part, you got political debates, like it's a word that somebody says, like that's derogatory, and maybe they don't know it's derogatory at the time, so then they come out and apologize for it, which they would have done already. By the way, this is talking in the sense of like celebrity makes a mistake and says the wrong word.
Yeah, of course they're gonna look
They
out for
of
their
course they're
interests.
gonna
Yeah.
yeah, they're gonna come out and say it so you really don't know if that's genuine or not. But in the same sense of what I'm talking about, like since you don't know the full story anyway, give them the benefit of the doubt. That's like in recent years, I've started to notice that where people just kind of jump the gun, like, oh, yeah, I'm never talking to this person again or whatever because of one thing they've done. And everybody has made mistakes. I don't care who you are. So, for you to basically make it look like you're better than that person because they've made a mistake and you can point out that mistake right then and there, and not basically cover up your own mistakes because you're not bringing attention to it. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? It's just I don't really know or understand that whole idea at all.
Yes, I have a few things here. With the Logan Paul thing, I actually don't mind Logan Paul, and I think that might have been the best thing ever for him because his brother is insufferable. Who's maybe like he's probably had like Jake Paul has probably had opportunities to do that something similar, like show some personal growth or maybe not be a giant douchebag 24/7, but he doesn't. But I'm a big YouTube guy, and I remember this is like some YouTube lore I can really get some insight on when that video came up. I actually remember watching the actual video from Logan Paul because I had like I can't remember. I think I had somebody on Twitter that was like, maybe not like upset, but they were like clowning on him. Like, I can't believe this dude thought this would be a good video. So I saw the actual video before people were like ripping it and like, putting it back up. Um, I do think some like people were like, oh, he's making jokes while there's a dead body in front of him. I would say that like one, he's a moron for making this video. Two, I think it's stupid to go into this forest with the idea of like, what were you going? You were going to look for a body, and then when you see a body, you're like, oh my god, it's a body. It's like, well, what did you expect? But I think some of the things in those videos were like you ever seen somebody who like in a really bad situation like smiles because that's just like what their um it's like what their coping mechanism is, like
Yeah.
or like people who laugh in bad situations or make jokes, like, it's just like a thing, like a defensive reaction. So some of that video was just probably a 18, 19-year-old kid at the time seeing a dead body and being like, "Oh shit, like, this was probably a bad idea. I don't know what to do. Let's call the authorities. Imma make some jokes." And then people, like, ragged on him for his apology. It's like, well, he did apologize. Whether you think it's genuine or whether you think it's, bad, like, at least he made the effort to apologize. But I also remember him talking about this in retrospect, saying that, those guys started on Vine. I don't know how many people are our age or people who care enough to remember, but like they were chasing this, internet fame and the virality for such a long time. And then when they went on YouTube, they would do vlogs. Like they were, because like you remember Casey Neistat when he was like posting
Yeah.
vlogs every day, and then
Mhm.
everybody was like, I should do that. He's getting 10 million views a video. Um, so they were doing that, and he talked about how that mindset of trying to create a TV show, quote unquote, every day and trying to make it interesting and shit, like how that affected him as a person and like that is it's like you said, you don't know everything about everybody at the time, and I really hate that people be like, "Well, that's just an excuse." It's like, it's not really an excuse. He's trying to give you context to how his brain was working at the time. He's not excusing what he did and saying it was okay. He's just saying that like he was so misled and his head wasn't in the right spot to where that's why that video happened. And I actually like I've listened to some of his podcasts like unironically all the way through. Like I don't really like one of his co-hosts. I think that one of those guys is a fucking tool bag. But I think he makes decent content, and I think that was probably the best thing for him. It made him grow up, and then he had like a redemption arc. He's somewhat agreeable these days. The two other things I wanted to say was, you're right. Nobody is charitable these days. I like to debate people. I like to watch internet debates. The one thing I hate is when somebody goes into an argument or a debate with bad faith to where they've already painted their opponent or you know whatever you want to call them rival. They've already painted this person they're going to debate as a bad person and given them all these bad ideas that maybe they don't even have. Um, and then also when like you talk about cancel culture, when you see people like make these videos in response to other people, they start off by saying nothing in this video is correct. I don't agree with anything this guy said. That's like factually that probably can't be true. Depending on what the video is, there might be parts of the video that you might be like, I agree with that, or like that might be true. But when you start off by saying to like your fans or whoever you're trying to get this point across to that nothing this other person said is right or nothing about it at all is good, you're just being really uncharitable to that person as if everybody can't be the worst person ever because then everybody sucks. And that's the other thing I was gonna say is like you said about like whether it's a word or a situation or a belief a person has to where everything becomes like nuclear problems. It makes it seem like real problems don't matter. And
Yeah.
that's something I've always said with like it's a South Park quote, but in South Park, they talked about like jokes and how when you start saying you can't joke about this and you can't joke about that, either either everything's okay to make fun of or nothing is okay to make fun of. Because once you start walling off, you can't make fun of this, you can't make fun of that. Eventually, you will find a representative for everything that's ever existed, to either say you can't joke about it or it offends me, which is like, I'm not saying people can't be offended, and I'm not saying there's not bad jokes out there. I've heard some people like say a joke in confidence that was either like racist or misogynist or just like really fucked up, and they think it's gonna land. They think that shit's gonna be funny, and I'm just like, bro, that was weird. I don't know
Hmm.
why you would say that in public, but it's like, do I think they're a bad person? No. Do I think they're a racist? Probably not. But like, it's just like you can have bad jokes. You're allowed to like say something and it not be funny. But it's like you said, you can't just. It's like everything's nuclear nowadays. I say this about the NBA every time I watch like Sports Center or something. They always talk about how everybody's great. Everybody in the NBA is great. I'm like, well, if they're all great, then they're all average. Like they can't
Yeah,
all be great.
exactly.
Yeah, like and everything can't be the worst thing ever because then everything's nothing. None of these problems matter. But you see that a lot with like I saw that with the Me Too movement. Like you'd have like some of these girls like posting on Twitter about like I don't know. I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but like just like probably shitty situations with men that probably like shouldn't have happened or weren't great. And then you'd have like these women from India talking about like these gruesome experiences they've had of like real, you know, Me Too situations. I don't want to get too graphic because I know you're gonna post this on YouTube. But they're gonna have like way worse situations, but you have all these people on Twitter thinking that it's like, no, like he might have been a douche or like you might have not liked his advances, but like, there are worse problems. I think that's a big American thing is like we've made everything such a problem that it seems like real problems don't matter, or like people see a real problem, they almost don't believe it. Um, I know I've been talking for a minute. The last thing I wanted to say about this was context does matter, and there's three things I've learned people do when they hear something that they either don't understand or don't know everything. Um, they're either gonna get mad, which is what we see a lot, which is the outrage. I'm gonna tweet about this. I'm gonna cancel you. Blah 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 blah. They're gonna be indifferent. They're not gonna give a shit. Or there's probably gonna be people like me and you who I think are gonna go read some articles. They're gonna read different sources, both sides of the stories. They're gonna try to understand what happened and then make their own opinion. And I think we need more of the last one as opposed to the first one. But I think all this stuff's like a swing. It's going too far one way and then it's gonna come back the other way. That's how this stuff always goes. But it definitely does suck. I think context is important, and I think people need to be more charitable instead of just being I don't know. Why not like really like I'm a big Batman fan. So like why not do some detective work and really see if this person holds these beliefs or is really evil rather than just like going off like literally judging a book by its cover. People are like, "Oh, you said
Yeah,
bad thing, you're a bad person forever. You've
yeah.
never done anything good."
Lot of judgment going around these days for sure, and especially going off to what you said, it's just crazy because obviously there are bad things to do and bad things to say, and most people would know the difference. But the people who do that nowadays in 2022, when virality is a thing, and if you say the wrong thing and you're of a certain status, that is the perfect combination of virality. I don't think somebody would just suicide bomb their career to make a point or to be stubborn. Most of those people are just clearly not educated. And that's the biggest reason why I make this point is because if we show that person a little bit of grace and just educate them, they'll know better for next time, and then we won't be in this problem anymore, and then we can all move on, because worrying about it is just going to cause more problems anyway. And why would you really want to spend your time worrying about something that you know you really don't care about at the end of the day? That was like the main reason why I brought that up, because it's been a theme here lately where I see a lot of people worrying about things that really don't involve them, and worrying about it to the extent of painting that person as a villain when they made a mistake, and everybody makes mistakes. So giving that person a little bit of grace, and just showing them empathy and stuff, and just mainly kindness when somebody is being rude and stuff, and you're still kind about it, that's a strength. And it takes kindness to like filter through all the negativity. So I don't know. It's just a weird thing nowadays when people like to go online and be keyboard warriors and try to cancel people for no reason because they're bored. I feel like that's what it comes down to, because otherwise they wouldn't worry about it. I know a lot of the older generation spends almost no time on social media in comparison to the younger generation. And that difference is is very large, by the way, because I work with the older generation a lot. I'm in cellular sales, so I can get a gist of the like
I can
the older
imagine.
generation just
Yeah.
not up to date with technology in general. So I know those people are not going to start going online because they're bored and spreading stuff or trying to cancel people or starting petitions or whatever. They're not going to do that because they don't care. And not only that, it's such a small problem in relation to the other things they could be spending their time and energy on. I think that's the biggest thing too. Is like there's so many other things you could be focused on to actually make a real difference, and you're worried about, something somebody said in poor taste when they were clearly uneducated. Like,
And the other thing is, like, it's not gonna matter in, like, a month. Like, somebody else
exact, or
said
even 3 days. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
nobody's gonna care. But that's, there's a few things you said, like, the one you said about not knowing, I had to use this, like, in my own life, and not to, like, try to, like, make myself, like, seem better or anything. When I worked at this pawn shop, I probably wasn't I was, like, really stressed out, I didn't like my job, I fucking hated it, I hated working there, and the environment was really toxic, like, we were always, like, arguing with each other, but not like in a, like, about to fight way, just, like, every day there was an argument about a video game or, sports or, like, it was just, like, dudes, like, arguing. It was like being in high school again, but it was always so heated and so tense, and everybody's trying to, joke on somebody else, and everybody's not trying to be the butt of the joke. It was like a giant rotation. It was like working in a high school locker room. It was awful. And I remember one time, one of the like, my friends that I worked with at the time, he, like, unloaded on me with all this shit about, "You do this and you do that, and nobody ever wants to tell you because of this and because of that." And I'm like, "Well, how come you guys never said anything?" They're like, "Well, you're just gonna get mad." I was like, "Well, I might get mad, but, like, how can you expect a behavior to change if you don't tell somebody they're doing something that's wrong?" Like, you can't not address it because if like, I can't read your mind, and, I agree with you, there are certain times where you cross the line or where something's just too egregious, but if there's, like, somebody in your life or, even like you said about, like, if it's celebrities, like, if somebody's saying something they shouldn't say or that is offensive or whatever, and you wanna change that, the kindness part plays into that. Like, you're never gonna change someone's mind by telling them they're fucking dumb or
exactly.
sh
Yes.
sorry,
Because real quick, I'm
like
going to interject and say,
oh,
if
yeah.
you are fighting some sort of negative thing that you've seen somebody do with more negativity, that person closes their ears immediately and they will not listen. They do not care. They're just going to fight back with more negativity. It doesn't work. Kindness is always the way to change shit. Keep
Yeah,
going.
and you're gonna force them. They're literally gonna double down. They're gonna become even more ingrained in
Yeah.
whatever idea or behavior, I'm bad about that, I have to watch that, I get real defensive, so I know that better than anybody, and that's my thing, like, if you come at me, I'm a big, like, back against the wall like, if you put me in a corner, bro, I'm fighting, like, I have no way out, and it's like, if you come at me, Imma come at you, but there's different ways to do it, and, for sure, like, you're never gonna change someone's mind with the way they're doing it, right? Like, all this cancel culture does, and it's on both sides, whether you're right or left, liberal, conservative, whatever. They both do it, and then they both yell at each other for doing it. It's like, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys are just fueling a fire for no
Yeah.
reason other than like it's like they're keeping score, but it's like no one cares. Like, there's no official score to this. No one's ever gonna care about who did what first or who canceled who for like no one cares. And it's a good point, like you said. You're never gonna change somebody's mind by screaming at them and telling them how stupid they are for believing that. They're just gonna double down and they're just gonna be like, "Well, why would I change?" Anytime somebody has a problem with it, they're just rude to me, so why would I even try to go to their side? It's like I said about being charitable. If you wanna change like I've said this about debates and arguments. Debates and arguments really don't change somebody's mind. You're never going to forcefully change somebody's mind. You just have to try to give them different arguments or different perspectives or information and hope that they take something from that, maybe expand upon it themselves, and they'll have to change their own minds whenever they're ready. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to change anyone's mind by tweeting at them. If you give them a bunch of information and maybe, like you said, be kind to them, or maybe not even be overly kind, just like I said, be charitable. Just be like, hey, I saw you posted something. I don't really agree with that. Here's some things you might want to read. Maybe you learn something, maybe you don't. And maybe they do go down that road. And then they like that's how I change my mind most of the time. Is I'll either ask somebody a question and see what they have to say and see whatever sources or links or articles or whatever. And I'll do my own research. And sometimes I change my opinion and sometimes I don't. And yeah, there's this whole like fire with fire thing is never gonna work. And the last thing I wanted to say was I think you're right. A lot of people are bored nowadays. It's really sad. Like people don't have hobbies. They think watching TikTok is a hobby. They think, you know, like I would even say streaming is a way better hobby. Like do something. Like whether it has to be productive, maybe not creative, but like, like I said, I don't know, man. Like start a garden, fucking paint, I don't know, build something, like work with some wood. I don't know. Find something that you can do that, and it doesn't have to not be technology related. It's like you can't people think posting on Twitter or Facebook or watching TikToks is like a hobby. Like that's not a hobby. Like you're not I don't even want to say you're wasting time because like everybody wastes time at a certain point. But you're right. This boredom leads to just I don't know. Brain worms is the best way I can put it. People just got a bunch of worms in their brain and they're like, I'm gonna go sit on Twitter and argue with people for like I used to do that and like right after I graduated high school when I moved to Chicago, most of my day, if I wasn't working, would be spent like in Facebook comment sections, like arguing with people. And it was the
Yeah.
biggest waste of time and it was so toxic and nothing ever came of it. So I definitely agree. Boredom leads to everybody feeling like they have a voice and like you know, that's not the good, what's that called? Like, that's cathartic, like, you get out your thoughts, you get to yell at somebody, but it's like you said, you're just a keyboard warrior, you're not doing anything. It's like I said about,
Yeah.
people being upset about Roe v. Wade. You should be upset about Roe v. Wade, but sharing the same 6 posts that I see on my Facebook feed over and over and over isn't gonna do anything. Go to your local legislator, start, like, a campaign, get your community involved. Go actually make your voice heard instead of just complaining on the internet and being bored. Like, go out there and make it a reality, but I definitely agree, bro. The boredom, it leads to so many problems these days. And I get it. A lot of people are, struggling financially, got tons of inflation, gas is up, rent is up. So I get it, but it's like you can also like you can find things to do, bro. You can find things that are, like starting a like even like a little house plant, get a goldfish. I don't know, do something. But yeah, I feel it, bro.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just like, especially when you get into those battles, it just becomes like an alpha versus alpha, and there's no compromise at all. So then it just literally escalates into some huge argument over, whether pineapple belongs on pizza or not. It's just it's literally ridiculous. Like some of the things I see is insane, and I think it's not a certain group of people that has this issue, but since statistically younger people are on social media, I feel like that's the group that I'm kind of talking about. But I see older generations on Facebook too. It's weird because iHeartRadio, for some reason, I still like their page and I see their posts, and sometimes they'll post something about Lizzo, which I don't really listen to Lizzo's music that much. I think she's, you know, pretty
I think she's
cool.
annoying. I'm
I
sorry, I just need to throw that out there.
No, you're good. I'm glad we're talking about this. But like, here's the thing: even if you don't like her, people literally like they posted a picture of her in a swimsuit, and I knew exactly the type
Oh,
of
yeah, I don't
comments I
agree with
was
that
gonna.
stuff. That stuff's
I knew
stupid.
it- I knew
Yeah.
exactly the type of comments I was gonna see as soon as I tapped on it. Be like, "Ew, I don't want to see this. Cover up, Lizzo. Ew, you should like post somebody else who actually looks like they belong in a bikini." And it's just like I'm reading, and I'm like, holy cow, And it's like the mindset existed before, but social media exponentially um, distributes that information and the mindsets
Everybody
of those
thinks that
people. It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
everybody thinks they have something worth sharing. But I
Yeah.
would also agree, like, those people that make those comments, I think are the reason I find Lizzo annoying is because she, like ugh, she always has to, like like, do whatever you want, be proud. I'm not like, I don't condone any of that. I just think she's annoying, like, as a person, but I think a lot of people like that are annoying, for a lot of different things. But I would also agree, those people in those comments are the reason she's annoying to me, because if she didn't have to do that every day, I wouldn't care and I wouldn't find her annoying. But I get it. It's a cycle for sure.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know Lizzo, and Lizzo doesn't know me, and her posting a picture in a bikini doesn't affect me at all. And I think that is good. I think if she's confident and comfortable in her own skin, then that should be something everyone's allowed to do. But it comes with a lot of hate and people thinking that whatever they're saying is actually going to change stuff when in reality they're just on Facebook typing on some
Yeah,
sort
if
of radio
anything,
page that she's literally never Lizzo's never going to go to iHeartRadio's Facebook page and be like, yeah, let me stop posting myself in a bikini because Edward fucking said so. Like,
I
okay.
agree, and if anything, they're boosting her in the algorithm. More people are
Exactly.
because you're
Yeah,
commenting on it. I also wanna say, just because I find her annoying, I don't think anything she's doing is wrong, and I also think it's great that she inspires people and helps that's great. So, just in case there's any people like, "Oh, he's a hater," I might be a hater, but I have no issue with her, I just find her annoying personally.
yeah,
But
and,
I think it's great if
whatever.
people find motivation from her, that's great, that's awesome, you should do that. But it's like you said, I don't know her, I don't listen to her, I don't care. Do whatever you want,
Yeah,
listen to her, like her Instagram post of her in a bikini, whatever you want. You did say something earlier that I forgot to say. The whole thing about oh, if you don't agree with me, don't talk to me. I hate that more than anything. It's like, yes, I mean, there are maybe like certain things you should not talk to a person over, but it's like people will do this over the most like small minor issues of like, if you don't agree with this, don't talk to me. And I get sometimes it's a meme, but for some people that's really true and they like unfriend people. I'm like, jeez, man. Like, you don't care enough about that person to maybe like have a conversation with them. You're just gonna give up. You just don't care. You're just gonna live in this echo chamber where everybody you ever talk to, like, I argue sometimes that some of the best friends I have, we like, not that we fight all the time, but like, you should be friends with people who don't. Like, if you're friends with somebody that just loves everything the same as you, that's gonna get boring. Like, you need to have somebody that pushes back or gives you a different angle, or you can have conversations with. Like, there's tons of people I have conversations with where it's like a I wouldn't even call it a debate. It's just like a conversation about like our differences, and we don't have to agree at the end of it. It's just both of us giving our take. I used to be in like a little group like that, little group chat where it was just like friendly like debates. But yeah, it ends up like you said becoming like faction versus faction. Like everybody just wants to group up and like I don't know. I call it LARPing. Like you got all these people LARPing about
yeah,
like tearing down society and
yeah,
burning it all to the ground. I'm like, you guys would be pissed if you couldn't go to Starbucks and get on fucking TikTok. Like, you want to burn society to the ground, but then you're gonna be really pissed off when you can't do anything. Like, you can't go do anything anymore. Like, I don't know. I'm such like a out of the loop of our generation. That I don't even know what people our age do. Like, maybe go to the bar. Like, let's say if we tear down society, there's no more EDM festivals for Brett. You know
yeah,
that's gonna
exactly.
suck. You're gonna be like, damn, I kind of want those EDM festivals back. This is kind of boring.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that in like Rick and Morty when they go to like the Mad Max world, and then Rick like builds like all their stuff off of that green rock, and they basically have like television and electricity and stuff. And then he steals it. And it's like they used to be in chaos. They had all this, and then they go back to chaos, and they hate it. It's like, yeah, bro, it would suck. But yeah, everybody's larping on Twitter and online. Everybody just wants to. I think Bo Burnham said it best when we were growing up as kids. Um, they always told us like you're special, you have a voice, you're a person. Not that that's bad, but they did it so much, and then social media came out, and everybody they were like, "Here you go, perform for each other all the time. Everybody has a voice. Everybody is a somebody. Everybody can give their opinion." And I think we're just too dumb in this day and age to really process. I don't think we're meant to handle all that information and all those opinions all the time, every day about everything, you know? Like, I think it's scientific, like, you only remember like 150 people, like 150 names or something. So it's like people are seeing 1,000 different stories in a week, and that might be a low number, you know? Maybe not stories, but like opinions and comments and takes. It's like it's an overload. That's why it doesn't work right now. Is because we're too dumb to handle it, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah. And if you're trying to change something, it definitely has to be in a productive way. I know some people who just take it to the extreme, like, well, I tried that, it didn't work. Like, no, you tried it, but you didn't do it the most productive way that you could have did it, and it didn't work because you took the risk of having it not work because you didn't do it right. You know, it's like that. So you got to be practical about it. There shouldn't be participation trophies for you not doing any work at all. You
For
have
sure.
to do it. You have to do it right, and it has to be something that actually matters. Like, and I'm not saying people don't matter. I'm just saying when you're on Facebook and you're talking about Lizzo in a bikini, like that shit is it does not fucking matter. Like, go find something else to talk about and be productive about it, you know? It's just like we're worried about things that don't matter at the end of the day, and we should be focused on ourselves mainly, and we should only interact with people whenever we have ourselves figured out. I think that's the best way to end this episode anyway. I normally do like a question, like a Q&A type thing. Do you have any specific questions for me at all, or is there any final thoughts that you have for the episode today?
Good question. Do I have a question? Um, trying to think of one real quick. All right, I'm a big like I'm not religious or anything, so I draw a lot of motivation from like art, movies, music, books. If there was like a not like a person, not something that's meant to be motivational, because I know you're into that content. What's like something in your life that you always like go back? Like, do you have a favorite movie or a song or a book or something you always go back to like when you're down and out? Like, is there something that always brings you back up?
That is a really good question, and I find comfort in a lot of older music for sure. Like I'll rediscover my love for certain music and the way that it made me feel the first time I ever heard it. So if I am feeling down, I'll listen to some of that, and that's mainly like some older rock music that I used to like, or even some uh, EDM music, but it's songs I haven't heard in a while. So that'll bring me comfort for sure, but also, that 70 show, for some reason, that show is just a super comfort for me. I've actually watched the entire um, show, like seasons 1 through 8 or whatever it was, like three whole times at this point because I love it so much. That's definitely my go-to show for comfort. And like when I'm feeling down, I can just lay in my bed and watch that, and then maybe try again tomorrow and
I
see
might have
if
to
I
watch
feel
that
better.
again.
But
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
good one.
I don't even know if it's still on Netflix, but
I don't
that's
think
my
so.
go-to for
That show
sure.
is hilarious though. Dude, I forget about that show. That's damn. That took me back. I'm like, yeah, that
Yeah,
show was funny. I always forget about that one.
I think they're
Damn.
doing a reboot that '90s show. So I can't wait. It's not gonna have the original cast, unfortunately, because of certain allegations. But yeah.
Yeah, that dude is a weirdo.
But anyway, that's my answer. What about you?
I mean, mine's kind of nerdy. Uh, if I really had to like narrow it down to like you said, a couple, like music's definitely a big one. I wouldn't say anything particular. Maybe like some old Green Day stuff. Like American Idiot is like I go to that album a lot just for a lot of different things. But my thing that really always picks me up is like Batman, bro. Like when I think about Batman or I read his comics or I watch the movies, whatever, like the thing about Batman that always like brings me back is just the whole point of Batman is to turn trauma into like something good, whether that's justice, whether it's uh there's a really good comic line of I think it's All Star Batman that like it really like he's about to get married and like the whole point of this comic is to like take a different perspective of like can Batman even be happy because the core point of Batman is trauma and getting like if you've ever read a bunch of Batman comics, Batman gets his ass kicked so many times. He loses so many friends and like his, little sidekicks and whatnot. Like the whole point of Batman is pain and trauma and then being able to overcome that and then triumph again only to fall and lose and then triumph again. So yeah, I say this a lot like as a nerd. Like I tend to like think a lot like Batman when I get down and out. Like what would Jesus do? Like nah, what would Batman do, bro? What would Bruce Wayne do right now? Like how would he improve this? But yeah, there's a lot of different like good Batman takes and different renditions. Most of my comic collection is Batman related because I think he's dope. But yeah, other than that, old like punk rock music, like dude, the Ramones, like No FX. There's this band called Turnstile. A lot of angry music is what like kind of gets me back. Uh, Linkin Park, stuff like that. Just it makes me feel alive again. Like the anger and the rage of getting that out. Like that's something that always picks me up when I'm down. I'm like, well, let's just get angry about it and figure it out. Like I don't know why, but that's my go-to is like get angry and figure it out. And usually I come back to baseline after that. So
Oh yeah, that's good to hear, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on to the podcast. Like I said earlier in the episode, if you haven't checked out our episode on just last week, which is Dave's podcast, go check that out. But if you've made it this far, I appreciate you checking out the episode on my podcast. Follow me on the Instagram. I'm starting to post some more clips on there at Bullish Project. Follow my man Dave. Give him some love because me and him have been, this is our second episode together, but me and him have been talking back and forth about doing more episodes. And this is actually our third episode total together. We posted one joint episode that went on both of our podcasts originally. We made one episode each for our podcast. So go give him some love. It would mean a lot to me. He's a good friend of mine. And until episode 21 finally be legal enough to drink on this podcast, I'm super excited to get into that. But until next time, I'll see you later. Peace out.